Today, it's all about Chimera. You guys know I love Chimera and I want to play it in every format possible. So this is the updated Chimera deck list from me for Genesys post-October points list update. Alright, hit that like button, hit subscribe, ding that notification bell, and here we go. So this is my Chimera deck list, and yes, it looks very, very modern, and I'll give you guys my K9 deck that I promise you guys next time, okay? So make sure you guys do hit that subscribe button. But looking at here, it's just such a nasty deck. So we have a ton of hand traps thanks to the wiggle room that the Nightmare Apprentice gave us. We have 3 Charming Fools, that feels very modern. We have triple Veiler, we have triple Crow, we have 1 copy of Skullmeister. We're trying to min-max on hand traps that are also fiend-based so that we have better synergy with our fusion plays. So we have double Cap Shell and 1 Quackimera Doom. Doom is there for floodgating your opponent. Okay, I'll just be real with you guys. You just dump into the graveyard, revive it with Chimera as a part of the fusion play when you're setting up your board and hand ripping your opponent. But the Cap Shells are there to replace the Upstart Goblin, because Upstart Goblin, well, they kind of gain points, so I need something to replace it. And the only thing that really have synergy is to get additional draws, and I want to be able to perform fusion-based plays. Knowing that 90% of people, or 99% of people, won't be throwing a D-Barrier at me, I feel super safe of executing a lot of these fusion-based plays. Okay, and so we have that. We have 1 Nightmare Apprentice, went down to 20 points. We have the Diabel Star and Diabelze engine, which is the White Witch and Vengeance. It's very strong, and Diabelze is also part of this package because Diabelze White Witch can throw Sinful Spell Subdual into the graveyard, allowing you to free special summon out the original Sin and kind of putting your opponent under an anti-spell, almost anti-spell, because they can activate the cards obviously, but anything that's a quick play or trap base, they can't just launch it anymore. So it's a very strong combo. And then we also have 2 copies of Berfelman, 3 copies of Mirror Sword Knight, 3 copies of Gazelle, 2 copies of House of Wax. It's nice to draw into it with a Mulcharmy. And we have Master Tao, 2 copies of the King of the Swamp. We just have any way possible to dig into a polymerization. It will feel very good because most things in your hand are fusible. Most combinations are feasible unless you're just playing with purely hand traps. Okay, that part, well, I can't really fix. Polymerization, we have 1 copy, and then 3 copies of Chimera Fusion, one of a fantastic card. And then we also have Final Bringer of the End Times as the tech removal choice. A lot of your cards can chain. If you have Mirror Sword Knight and this card is your opening hand, well, just summon out the Mirror Sword Knight, chain the Final Bringer, and chain off your Mirror Sword Knight. Now you get to pop one of your opponent's card, so making the interaction much more aggressive and more in your favor. You can also activate the Final Bringer of the End Times and then chain your own Chimera Fusion to fuse off some of the materials that you've targeted. Therefore, you'll only pop your opponent's cards. Fantastic. I love it. Then there's the Diabel engine cards such as Feel Diabel and Curse of Diabel. And we have 1 Sinful Spell Subdual to special summon out level 5 or higher illusions. Now that particular effect is very useful, but make sure you summon out Nightmare Apprentice during the battle phase or the standby phase, just not main phase, or else you will miss out on the draw. Which is not draw, but like miss out on the effects because they can't activate during the main phase. Now for the extra deck, we have 1 thing that really takes up most of our points, which is going to be the Guardian Chimera, 33 points. I get it. I wish it was lower so I can finally shove in a Kotal into this deck. Kotal's still 33. I don't get why those 2 are equal in value, but it is what it is. 3 copies of Burfo, 2 copies of Chimera Illusion Beast, 2 copies of Chimera, the King of Phantom Beast. And then there's 2 more Regina. I just shoved in whatever I can actually think I can fuse, and that's it. But I'm not running Super Poly because also, they gain additional points as well. There's the Duke of Demise, Magnum the Reliever. These you will use pretty often. And then there's also Aerial Eater and Azumina Soul Erstsikten. But yeah, that one is your removal. So here we go. And we also have 1 copy of the White Forest Silvera, because when you use Diabel Star's effect, if you have another Diabel name on the field, this will come out of the extra deck and perform a Book of Eclipse effect on your opponent's side. So fantastic. Now the extra deck is something that took massive hits. I looked at my hand here and I'm like, man, so many cards took hits here. So Iron Thunder is gone and Grisaille Prisons are gone because they now cost points to play. So there was a bit of a balance. Well, guess what? These are now moving into modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Now because there's no deep barrier anymore. So, you know what? Maybe Konami thought about that too. But Triple Alpha is a beast with a, well, not only is it huge, but it can also act as non-target based removal against your opponent. There's Torrential Tributes. I'm choosing to play Drowning Mirror Force. I love Drowning Mirror Force because a lot of the times people can attack directly, and for the Memento player, they just love having all their stuff, put back into their deck, right? They just love that. And I'm playing a Kaiju for removal. My Kaiju is going to be Radiant because I need a Fiend-based Kaiju for my purposes, because I can at least fuse it off if it's useless. So that's kind of the entire points list. Let's take a look at some of these games. This was one of the more epic games against Memento, one of the stronger decks in the current Genesys format. So my opponent's going to be the one going first. Of course, I have only one hand trap against them. It's pretty effective. I'm only going to get a couple draws here, but starting with the Anguish getting into the Tatsu. Nohoko Shigo sets it up for the Gactic. Gactic gets back the Mythical Sheep. Now I get to chain Fuwa for the additional draw when they fuse into the Creation King, drawing into Mirror Sword Knight. The dump is successful for the dumping 3, and look, there's a lot of stuff going on when it comes to Memento, and it's pretty hard for me to keep up with it, but they're going into the Twin Dragon. Twin Dragon is a summon that allowed my Molcharmi to, well, resolve the effect to draw more cards, popping itself and adding 2 different name cards. And so now we get to summon out the Darkblade because the card was destroyed, and now it goes into the Goblin. So Goblin, I did not want my opponent to send more cards into the graveyard. I really wanted them to be limited in terms of their name, but perhaps maybe they're just better choices. And also the effect field only recently came up through a draw, so this is the card I chose to hit. Not sure if it's correct, but I'm going to give it a whirl. Drawing to the Drowning Mirror Force, I did feel a little bit cheeky, like thinking that, hey, maybe I can use that Drowning Mirror Force to perhaps let them resolve the Akihiron, and then use the Drowning Mirror Force to send all the bosses back into the deck. But because of where we left off, he sets his 2 final Bring at the End times, and so far, this is just a giant beat stick. That doesn't really do anything. The Goblin is okay, but this giant beat stick also, whenever something activates, he gets to summon something back out of the graveyard. So going on to my turn, I draw into another effect failure. No dice there, starting with the failure at Diabell. That allows me to summon out the Diabell. Now, this is the part that's a little bit annoying because my opponent did get summoned an Anguish, and with the Anguish activated, he goes for the final Bring at the End times, and here we go. I chain my effect to pay half my life to take out the Creation King, because Creation King can pop like multiple cards, and a board full like this could just end up skipping my entire turn. So it's very, very dangerous. So we take out the Creation King. However, Akihiron activates, summoning Akihiron back. Now normal summoning out the Gazelle King of Mythical Claws. I don't think there's any additional reaction for my opponent, except that they can activate Key Mace, because Key Mace was added to hand, and that could steal my card. Now, starting off with the Polymerization or Chimera Fusion, this led to our Berflema dumps into the graveyard a Master Tau. Master Tau summons back the Mirror Sword Knight, and Mirror Sword Knight activates now because we did a Gazelle normal summon to get the first Chimera Fusion. Now, this allows us, of course, anyone that knows, that lets us get into our Berflema. Berflema gets the double add, and this is the part where misplay happens here. My opponent activates the Key Mace, or the Memento Mace, to target my Berflema. I had an option to Chimera Fuse it off. I did not take it because I did not see myself holding too many illusion monsters, so I held back, if you guys were wondering. I'm trying to win the game in one shot, but that was clearly a misplay right there. So getting into the Nightmare Apprentice gets summoned. We get our search into the Diabell's White Witch, and we start performing our fusions. We get our fusion again. Don't forget, we basically got both Gazelle and Berflema, which means triple access to Chimera Fusion. You get to recycle 1 and play 2. Now we get into the Chimera, the Illusion Beast. Why is this in defense mode? That is a very, very big problem, because this game could have ended much, much sooner if we only basically, if only we did not misplay right there. Well, technically, he still would have a little bit more life. But hey, we got the Drowning Mirror Force set up. The hand rip occurred with the Chimera, and we got our card back. Now, this is the problem. Did not expect him to go Final Bringers at the End times to target the Drowning Mirror Force, but he takes it out because everything else technically wasn't a threat. And so a lot of stuff gets popped, and my entire board is now kind of weaned down. I have one effect failure to perhaps negate one effect. We've got to minimize the amount of stuff that my opponent can search for. Going for the Twin Dragon, I did not want him to search 2 cards, so we're going to negate that. He goes for the summon back with the Galactic, and he gets even more cards. Anguish gets put back into hand, and man, this is not looking too good for me. With me being set so far behind, I'm down to like top deck mode. However, on the activation of Akihiran, when he tries to go for the direct attack, because if that resolves, this gets attacked directly, I don't think I'm going to survive a 5,000 to the face. So we are going to negate that with Mirror Sword Knight. The opponent goes for the Anguish. Anguish adds the Memento Goblin. Can this card activate multiple times? No, you can only use each effect once. So now we get into the battle phase. There's a ton of damage on the board, and he's beginning with his initial swing. I take the 400 damage. However, in the graveyard, let's take a look at behind Mystery Door number 1. There is a Chimera, so that means Chimera can summon back our Chimera Illusion Beast. And during the end phase, we get back our Chimera, the King of Phantom Beast, because we had no choice but to revive it with the Burfo. Technically, there are other cards that we could have chosen to revive. However, that was not the case that we're going for, because it would have only been the Mirror Swords Knight. Perhaps that was another misplay, but drawing into a Fuwa, that does not help. Opponent switches into Memento Fusion and fuses off a couple of monsters, going back into Creation King. This is where things get a little bit dicey. I don't have any protection on any of my monsters, so he is going to go off, activating effects, summoning more monsters, setting up his graveyard, getting more search, getting more ability to take. I chain to fuse, forcing this entire interaction to happen. So it was Key Mace trying to target my card. I chain Chimera Fusion. He's forced to chain the Creation King so that I don't get myself another Illusion Beast. And so I get put into top deck mode. Akihiran activates, summons itself out, and here we go. Now that the graveyard's set up, because he did blow up the Drowning Mirror Force, so using a spell and trap, this Diabell Star now comes out. And we're going to battle phase. We take out the Akihiran. So the Creation King isn't that big of an issue as long as we can book it down. At least that's the thought process behind it. I can't add anything back. Darkblade now gets top deck summon. Anguish summon. Akihiran's coming out. Akihiran is successful. Akihiran, this is not looking good. He gets his field spell. He's got Sleepy. He's got everything. He's cycling everything so perfectly. And we get into battle phase, and guess what? I was already loaded and ready to go. So there were many options here. I could have went for the Illusion Beast, but the best monster option here was going to be Diabellzi, the White Witch. Summon out the White Witch. He activates his effect. I get my effect. I dump Curse the Diabell for the sake of dumping it into the graveyard. And now we get a Creation King summon. And I activate the effect of my Diabell Star to destroy the field spell. I did not want to deal with it. And I summon out my Silvera. Silvera on summon activate. He's going to attempt to pop my cards. And this is where things look really bad because he did not read my cards. As the Diabellzi White Witch is going to protect all my cards as he proceeds to crash his entire board into an air, a mountainside cliff. He literally flew into the cliff on that one. And yeah, that was it. Let's take a look at another one here where I went first and I saw my hand and I'm like, this is not it. This is when I was still testing Quaking Mirror Force. I have Fuwa and I set the Quaking Mirror Force and I'm like, what an idiot move that I just made. So I get to watch my opponent cutscene on me here. And yeah, I can't really do anything. Effect Failure not very good against Dark World. And I also kind of forgot that Dark World has a card called Grapha that can also do quite a bit of damage. But lucky for me, I had the combination of Effect Failure and, the Waxman. So he goes for the Gates. Gates does his thing, gets a draw more cards, banish, draw, add back cards, discard, summon out Wu. Now he gets into a point where he attempts to go into battle phase. And when he attempts to go into battle phase, I'm like, wow, I have to negate Grapha. If I don't negate Grapha, I can't land the House of Wax. So here we go. Taking the first swing, summon out the House of Wax, cannot be destroyed by battle. Yeah, it's gonna do its thing. So during the end of battle phase, all of the currently face-up attack position monster on their side gets, well, number one, negated. They also cannot be used as any material. So he was unable to convert into his Coach King. So he wasn't able to get the additional draws or anything along those lines. So that was one of his biggest limitations there. Well, I guess he wasn't even going to be able to draw anyway, but didn't have to deal with the Genesys, didn't have to lose my cards. All in all, good play. Now he summons out Ken again. Ken makes him draw 2, discard 1. He gets a virus, and he gets to pop 2 of my cards because that was technically my card, so I lost everything. My opponent proceeds to start the turn with everyone's favorite virus, Epidemic Eradicator, taking away my Phala Diabel, which does kind of suck, but here's how we proceed to OTK him back. So, we start off with the summon of Nightmare Apprentice. Nightmare Apprentice adds the Mirror Sword Knight. Mirror Sword Knight effect add into the Baphomet. Baphomet effect gets the Gazelle and the Chimera. Opponent is unwilling to activate the Epidemic because knowing that I'm just going to chain. He's got 2 epidemics on me, basically hitting me with like COVID and the flu at the same time, but it's not going to work. So now we proceed with our fusion, going to Baphomet. Baphomet gets the dump of our cards, activating the Gazelle and the Burfo, and we also get to summon back our House of Wax. We're trying to load up on illusion monsters at this moment, so Master Chow gets jumped into the graveyard, we get summoned back to Mirror Sword Knight, and now we get to add back our Chimera fusion. So proceeds to activate his thing to counter my card with another copy of Epidemic Eradicator Virus, but that is met with the Chimera Fusion. I'm just going to activate. It's a quick play of obviously summoning out the Chimera the Illusion Beast, and he left a little bit of wiggle room for me to do direct damage to him for lethal. So we're going to hit him once, hit him a second time, hit him a third time, and that's GG. And so if you guys want to play Chimera in Genesys, give this one a try. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button, hit subscribe, ding that notification bell, and I will see you all in the next one.